So we're back. We're back again. We did the introduction and all that crack, and then the internet decided to go down the tube. So let's do the introduction again. Dinny, give us a bit of background on yourself and what you're about and where you're from and all that crack.
Thanks, Steve. Bitcoin with Dinny. I've been in this space, working full time in the Bitcoin space, crypto space since 2020. My story, really briefly, is my parents struggled for money. I struggled for money. I lived in a caravan 20 years ago, and now I just teach people all the steps I've done. Came across Bitcoin and crypto a couple of years ago. Got really passionate about it. Learned about it myself for a couple of years. Then decided, Jesus, this is an amazing wealth creation vehicle. It's totally different than stocks. It's totally different than property. It's totally different than precious metals and stuff. It's the future. Why not teach other people to do what I've been doing?
Nice one, deadly. And like you're into the fitness as well, I believe. Watching your Instagram anyway, you're always in the gym.
Yeah, the best thing that ever happened to me was I broke my back. So I've rehabilitated myself from broken spine to Ironman triathlete, and I still train today and train as best part of my day, man.
Jeez, no way. That's a serious thing to overcome. Fair play to you. What do you mind me asking what happened in breaking your back? It's rare you meet someone who's broken their back. That's mental.
I'm into motorbikes. Need I say more?
Right. Fair play. Jesus, that's yeah. I used to have a quad when I was younger, and I used to tear on fields, and like they're dangerous things. My dad runs a farm. I'm from Kilkenny myself, and my dad has this big quad to like pull tractors and stuff. And I remember like a few years back, I let two of the lads out on it, and they were on the thing went up on the side on two wheels, and it's like, geez, you want to know what you're doing on those types of machinery, because like you can have serious accidents. So Jesus, that's unbelievable. I didn't actually know that you've done that. So geez, you've overcome some unbelievable adversities. Fair play to you, man.
Thanks, man.
Class. And so let's jump straight into the crypto part, and then we'll see how we get on. But so talk me through how you got into crypto. And I'll preface that with I saw your story yesterday, and you said I think you said you read Rich Dad Poor Dad when you were 20. Was that what kind of kicked you off down this kind of financial road, and did that lead you into then later on in life having the knowledge of reading that book, knowing how assets work, how to create cash flow, what the difference is between asset and liability, all the kind of fundamental things, right? So I'm imagining that reading that book, that sets you up, and then you kind of had that knowledge going forward into 2020. But yeah, talk us through that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I lived in a caravan, and I didn't want to live in a caravan. So I used to always read books on getting rich, making money, how to invest, all this sort of stuff. And one of the best books I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and I recommended that to thousands of people. I've gifted it to a lot of people because it's just an amazing book. It's so simple, and it just teaches you the basics of how to think like a wealthy person. And instinctively, we think like poor people. We think in scarcity rather than abundance, and we don't understand assets, or we don't understand money. So it's an amazing starter for anyone who's beginning their journey. So I was fortunate that I was exposed to those learnings, and they stick with you. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years of age. And I've had many businesses. And before I was into the crypto space working in it, I had and still have fitness businesses. And that came about from, well, I broke my back. The surgeon said I'd have a limp forever, and I'd never lift that more than a bag of sugar. 3 years after they gave me that diagnosis, I finished an Ironman triathlon in a respectable time. So it's like, all right, I've fixed myself. Sure, it'll be handy enough to get a lad to lose a few pounds. I'll start a fitness business. And so I started and ran a fitness business, and I suppose I had good energy, great passion for it. So the business was a success. And then I had the problem, which is an amazing problem to have, is I had money that I didn't know what to do with. Eventually, I just accumulated money because before I was financially educated, I thought being rich meant you had loads of money in the bank. As I started to become financially educated, I realized rich people don't have money in the bank. That's the last place they leave their money because it devalues over time. So I had to explore investing. And for a decade, I've been investing. One of my biggest investments is always into myself and my education. I always like to drop that in. But that led me down the rabbit hole of investing into various different things like property and precious metals. And I was a gold investor before. I was a Bitcoiner, believe it or not. So it led me it led me quite easily into Bitcoin because I understood money. I understood the problems of our financial system, and the transition then into Bitcoin was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, 100%. For anyone that's out there that's listening, going, Jesus, what is he talking about? Money, understanding money, and understanding what assets are, and making your money work for you. How would you tell or break it down for like the average Joe, maybe who's just kind of working away 9 to 5, has expendable money, let's say, has their expenses covered, and doesn't have a clue about how money works or the fundamental principles of investing? How would you tackle explaining that?
I was hoping you'd ask me something like this because I brought a prop. And
yes, I love props.
This is a roll of toilet paper. This is a roll of toilet paper, okay? And how I explain, I just use drama to explain stuff sometimes. But like, this is better money than the euros in your wallet, okay? And people say, Dinny, what the hell are you talking about? You fucking idiot, okay? I'll prove it. In 5 years, is it going to cost more or less for this roll of toilet paper? It's going to cost more for it. So one of the properties of money, it has 3 essential properties, and one of them is to store value across time. Well, the euro is failing at storing value across time. We've seen it in the media. I'm not sure when people are catching this, but we've seen newspaper headlines, price of Guinness is going up again. The cost of everything is going up because the value of the money is going down. So toilet paper is better money than euros. And once you get financially educated, you realize this, that you can't save your money and leave it in the bank, because inflation is a silent tax. We pay all our regular tax. We pay tax on our car. We pay tax on our wages. We pay tax on our fuel. We pay tax on our food. And then we pay this silent tax called inflation. And it's the biggest hurdle rate because inflation is everywhere, always. You can choose not to put petrol in your car, but you can't choose not to suffer from inflation. So once you get that, you realize you have to take your money out of the bank. You have to put it somewhere. And that's why people put it in property or precious metals or digital assets like cryptos. And just simply because you're trying to beat the hurdle rate of inflation, because inflation has taken 10% of your money a year, which it is. It means you have to make 10% more money each year just to stand still. Otherwise, you're falling behind. And I didn't get that years and years ago. And it was only as I started to understand the financial system more and more, I started to realize why rich people don't have money in the bank.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's interesting because the word inflation, right, is, I think we've heard that word more in the last 24 months, I think, than we've ever heard any other word in our life. Could you give us a breakdown of your definition of inflation? I love hearing these because it's like everyone has their own different ways of what it is. But like for the average person, I feel like, just from my own kind of chatting to people and making content and reading the comments, like they hear inflation, but they don't really get what inflation is.
Yeah, the cost of living is increasing. What happened in 2020 was we expanded the money supply. We also made everyone stay at home, so all the supply chains fell apart. So now there's more demand than there is goods and services, so the value of them keeps going up. There's also, we've much more currency chasing even scarcer goods and services, so the price of them goes up. So inflation is a phenomenon. It's fairly complex, and I suppose over my pay grade, full disclosure, I'm not an economist, I'm just some pleb. But as a Bitcoiner, we understand that the reason Bitcoin was created was to combat inflation. Anytime money is printed, it devalues all the savings I have. I exchange my time for money. I work my job, okay? But the second the central bank prints euros, like if I print euros, I go to jail. But the European Central Bank can print billions of euros, trillions of euros, and it's fine. Why are the rules different for them than it is for me? Those closer to the money who get the cheap money get the advantage. Meanwhile, my savings in my bank account, and everyone who's listening to this who has savings in their bank account, are just being devalued. The value is being stolen silently just because most people aren't financially educated, and that's 100% by design, okay? And Bitcoin fixes this because Bitcoin has a fixed monetary policy, and no one can print Bitcoin outside of the rules of the system. So it's a predictable system.
Yeah, I love that. In terms of Bitcoin, so when did you kind of really first discover Bitcoin? Was it back earlier? Did you hear about it before 2020, or was it your first exposure to it in 2020? Or what's your kind of background and introduction, and what brought you in the door into the crypto scene, and specifically probably Bitcoin?
No, 2020 was when I opened my company to work in the space, but I had exposure to it earlier than that. If only I had exposure to it 10 years earlier than that, I wouldn't have had to work as hard for a decade. But we all have that story, and everyone's going to continue to have that story. Everyone thinks they're too late to Bitcoin, and that ain't going to change. So my story to my introduction, like Bitcoin crypto, it's got this inbuilt marketing system in it, and it's the halving cycles. It's that we have these parabolic rallies, and we're humans, so we suffer from fear and greed. It's in every single human. And the price action draws us in. So we come for the fast money, the easy money. We normally get wrecked. We all sort of have to have that story. And then we change, and we use a bit more sophistication in our investing strategies, and we can do well. So my story was 2016, 2015, I had friends who were interested. They were trading, they were making some money, and I was just paying a little bit of attention on the side. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm very busy, so I try and keep focused on what I'm doing. At the time, it was outside of my focus, but it got my attention a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm also deep in the understanding what is money rabbit hole, and I'm a gold investor at that time. So I'm accumulating the analog Bitcoin. And then, of course, I started giving a little bit of attention, and the light bulb went off fairly rapidly to go, oh shit, this is big. Like this is digital gold, baby, and so much more. I need to really, devote a lot of attention to this thing for the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, because a lot of people don't realize that the Bitcoin was created off the back of the horrific economic crash in 2008. It didn't just pop up for no reason. And it just going back to a point you said earlier that it was made for a reason to tackle these central banks, all over the world printing money that since we came off that gold standard. And I think that's the biggest part. I think when you start, I don't know if you find this, but when I start using kind of words like SEC or central banks, I lose people straight away. But it's such an important thing to understand, isn't it really? And if you were to break down, and this larger conversation is how money works, what would you kind of try and push people down the rabbit hole of looking into how money works, or what's your definition, I guess, of how money works and why it's important to understand?
Well, it doesn't work. It's broken. that's our whole thesis as Bitcoiners. The money system works to some degree, all right, but it's far from perfect. We have a better money system now. Bitcoin's monetizing. It's going to continue to monetize. Everyone's going to pay attention to Bitcoin. Everyone's going to have to learn about Bitcoin. They just don't know it yet. And those who learn about Bitcoin earlier are being heavily rewarded. How I explain to people why they need to pay attention to it is I take my toilet paper and I told them what I said to you earlier, and they go, oh, Jesus, yeah. Maybe I'll start thinking about that. And that was a lesson I got off my father years and years ago, because he said to me, and this was when we had the punt. You probably don't remember the punt because you're a young fella, but he said to me, what's the difference between a punt and, my mum had done the shop, we're in the kitchen, and this. And I was like, well, the money is valuable, and that's fucking toilet paper. And he says, no, they're both just paper. There's no difference between these. And he didn't give me a solid answer, but he just left me pondering on that for a few years. Another thing that sent me down this rabbit hole was another conversation with my dad. It was back before the year, maybe 90 something, I can't remember. I was looking around at property. I was interested in buying a property. Property was 100 grand. Wouldn't it be great to buy a property in Dublin for 100 grand now? But that's the price that they were. And my dad told me that he bought his house for 20,000. And I started scratching my head, and I was like, how come you bought yours for 20 grand? This is 30 years later. Building is better. We've better machines. We've better technology. Why isn't it cheaper? Technology is making stuff cheaper. Why is fixed things going up in price when technology is making stuff trending down, but the price of everything's going up? And, it's just the numerous touch points. If people actually do a bit of critical thinking for themselves, you come to the conclusion that, money, if you ask people what is money, it's a difficult question. It's philosophical, the word I can never say, question. There's so many different aspects to what money is, because if you're in prison, fucking money is cigarettes. If you're in the schoolyard, money is, premiership cards. So money can be anything. It's just a liquid good. But certainly the money that we're using here now on the fiat system, and that's what we call the money, it's by decree, it means we all must use it. But it's certainly broken because it's destroying value across time. And since the 70s, we've seen that. If you look at the quality in our foods deteriorated. Yes, technology is making us live much, much longer. but our health is deteriorating. Like there's no, and there's so much metrics that changed in 1971 when we went off sound money. Like, just in case people don't know, money used to be backed by gold. That's a gold coin, but it's not backed by anything anymore. The euro isn't backed by anything. Bitcoin is backed by energy. Gold is backed by energy. That's why they retain value across time. Euros are backed by nothing. That's why they destroy value across time.
We better jump into anyone that's listening that has maybe a very, very not so good grasp of what Bitcoin is. I love getting asked this question, but I'd love to throw it to you. And if you want to give me 2 breakdowns of what Bitcoin is, maybe like a little bit of a technical one, and then if you have like a really like tell your grandmother broken down version of what Bitcoin is. That's the way I kind of tackle it. I try and give two different approaches, because some people kind of go, I want a bit more than that. So yeah, how would you describe Bitcoin? What it is?
Many errors we got. Bitcoin is the simple explanation that I start people with. I run a consulting service. When I'm meeting someone, no matter how sophisticated an investor they are, I take them down the Bitcoin's digital gold, because it's an easy entry. Because you can explain gold, like that's physical gold, and Bitcoin is a digital version of it. Okay, gold is durable, divisible, recognizable, portable, fungible, and scarce. Bitcoin shares all those characteristics, but it's between 10 times better and 100 times better at every single one of them. Okay, there's a physical CD, right? We don't have these anymore. We have Spotify. Okay, Spotify is the digital version of this. Bitcoin is the digital version of this physical gold coin that I'm holding it in my hands. Not everyone's comfortable with that, and that's okay, because they'll die and people are coming behind them and they are comfortable with digital. They prefer digital. To the older generations, it's like, if I can't hold it in my hand, I don't trust it. But to the younger generations, it's, can I not? What do you mean I have to carry this around with me? Can I not put it on my phone? Can I not make it digital? So that's the way the world is trending. As investors, we're always trying to position ourselves to where the world is going, not where the world is. So that's my first analogy. Bitcoin is digital gold. Okay. But after that, it's bigger than that, because it's more than that. Bitcoin is a digital property. So I think Bitcoin is going to demonetize, take value out of the property market. And I don't think it, I know it. Because again, in our offices and stores, I meet investors who have physical property portfolios and they're selling some of them. They're selling a house, or they're selling a little apartment or an apartment block, and they're moving into the digital space, and I'm helping them do it. And the reason they're doing that is they have a physical property. They're getting crucified by the government on tax. They've all the maintenance. They have people ringing them up to say the toilet's broke or the neighbours are making noise, and they have to put the energy into maintaining that asset. However, if they transfer it into a digital asset, they don't have to do anything. They can store it anywhere. Their property might be concreted into the ground, whereas when they transfer it into a digital asset, they can take it anywhere in the world, wherever the tax is most favourable. They can move it there instantly and for free. So Bitcoin is digital property. Bitcoin's digital currency. We know that. That's where a lot of people get hung up on it. I can't buy anything with Bitcoin. I won't buy it. But you can't buy anything with Tesla stock. I can't buy anything with investment properties. I can't buy anything with my gold coin. That's not why I own them. I own them as, vehicles, investment vehicles. But Bitcoin is one of the investment vehicles that if you're in El Salvador, you can buy whatever you want because it's legal tender over there. And, over this decade, it's likely that other countries are following suit. I think there's 2 countries now on board and a couple of towns. So it is a digital currency. It's a digital property. It's a digital energy. And that's a little bit deeper in trying to understand that. Maybe we won't really go too much into that. But let's just say digital energy is a big thing. If you can digitize energy, that's a massive thing. And Bitcoin has allowed value to move anywhere instantly and for free. That's crazy. I recently had a client on, and from a different business I had, and he was in the UK, and he was trying to say, I was like, have you got Revolut? Have you got, no. Do you use Bitcoin? Yeah, I've never used before. Bam, the funds are sent instantly. I was like, that was easy, wasn't it? He's like, yeah, it kind of was. I was like, yeah, I know. This thing's pretty inevitable. Most people don't know it yet, but it's coming. No delay. He sent them. By the time he'd written out, did you get it? I was like, yeah, funds landed. So Bitcoin's so many things, and it's going after so many things. And the last thing I'll say, okay, store of value. That's why we invest in the stock market. That's why we invest in property. That's why we invest in precious metals. That's why we invest into businesses, is to store value, because we understand the money system's broken. It's destroying value. Store of value is currently 400 trillion. Okay, chasing store value. Bitcoin is a better store of value than all those assets, and it's 400 billion. It's got a bit of upside yet. We don't even have to get there. We don't take 100% of it. But if it's better than everything, you'd consider that, well, it's probably going to eat into everything, because it's Paul Tudor Jones, one of the best hedge fund managers in the world, calls it the fastest horse in the race. I don't listen to what my friends say. I listen to what people much smarter than me and much better at managing money are saying. So Bitcoin has been eating into the store of value, all store of value assets, and taking capital from them. And over the next 50 to 100 years, it looks like it's just going to continue to do that with volatility, meaning it's going to crash. Bitcoin go up, Bitcoin go down. But over time, if you stand back and look at it, this thing is only going one way, baby. It's a rocket and it's going straight up.
Yeah, it's so funny as well. Most people can't read crypto charts right. Most people don't know how to use the log button. Like, they look at a crypto chart and they go, "Fuck, Jesus, I'm Bitcoin charts. I'm not going near that." And then you go, "No, you need to press the log button," and it flattens out it just squashes down the levels of the peaks, and like you can see, it's going up to the right, like continually. It looks nearly better than the S&P 500. Like, if you actually A/B the charts, obviously the dips are there now, but it's very similar. Like, it's always going up, and the returns obviously are much bigger. It's funny as well, like talking about a lot of people saying you can't buy stuff with it. I have two friends out in Dubai who buy everything with Ethereum and Bitcoin. Like, I'm talking like cars, property, every crypto YouTuber as well. They pay for everything out there in cryptocurrency. Bitcoin and Ethereum only. It's accepted like in the entire city of Dubai, and I'm not sure about Qatar, but so it is. And that's, you could argue that Dubai is one of the most sophisticated, forward-moving cities in the world. And that's where everyone's moving. That's where a lot of content creators, entrepreneurs are all moving to Dubai, and a big part of it is because a lot of them hold crypto, Bitcoin. They hold these assets that they want to move out there and actually be able to use it, and obviously not pay capital gains tax. But I don't think a lot of people realize that either.
Yeah, that's cool, and that's the beauty of these digital assets, is that we can take them anywhere. I can't put all my gold, not that I have a whole lot, but I can't get through airport security with all my gold. I can't get through airport security with my investment properties. But I can get through I can take my digital assets anywhere in the world. And this is game theory, how it's going to play out. Dubai's doing really well. It's attracting a lot of really wealthy people there. Generally, governments like to have wealthy people in their jurisdiction because politicians love money, okay? And we're going to see this play out, that they're going to come down on Bitcoin, the crypto space heavy, be greedy, and then realize, oh, crap, they all left. Maybe we'll have to be a little bit more lenient to try and get them back, because they're seeing other countries, like what El Salvador's done, like what Dubai is doing, like what Portugal is doing, like what Germany is doing, and it's bringing all the wealth into the countries.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, for anyone that's kind of, thinking of stepping into the space, and they're on the fence about maybe booking a consultation with you, and maybe they want to do a bit of their own research first, or they should maybe do a little bit of like their own work before maybe coming to meet you, for example. Where would you say to start for someone that's kind of not even on the first step of the ladder and is interested in getting into Bitcoin?
Yeah, unfortunately, Steve, there's loads of great content creators like yourself. Watch all your videos. I see the stuff you do. It's awesome. You're putting out great content. Learn this way. Learn as much as you can. But one of my tips in life is, and I got it from Tony Robbins. He rang me up one day. He didn't really, but we pretend he did. He rang me up one day, and he says, "Dinny," I says, "Tony, what's the crack?" "Yeah, I'm reading all your books." He says, "There's two ways to learn." And I was like, "Okay, Tony, yeah." He's like, "You can spend years trying to figure something out and waste all your time and your money, or you can pay someone who's already wasted their time and their money, and they'll teach you over a weekend." So what I say to people is, and I used to say this in the fitness industry as well, because people are like, "Okay, I'm going to come do a transformation with you, Dinny. Let me know when you can get us down, but I'm going to go jogging first." And and I'd just be like, "Come here till I give you a dig. Listen, do you cut your hair before you go to the barber? No, you get in there with the hair all over the place and they fix it." So what I say to people is, you're going to pay for your crypto education either way. We've probably both paid through our losses and gained our experience that way. I paid a lot of when I came into the space, because I understand return on investment, as I had in all my other businesses. I hired some of the the best people I could afford in the crypto space to teach me. I've done internships and workshops and courses with all these people because I know it doesn't matter. I'm an investor. I don't care if I spend 10 grand or 30 grand. If I can spend 30 grand to make 100 grand, I'll do it every time I get 30 grand. So prices are irrelevant. People are going to pay either way. I would say with crypto, because you probably are getting this as well, like most people lose their ass. Most people, and some people lose it really bad. So I'd say don't go on your own. Go and get some help because think of it as return on investment rather than what's the cost of this? What's the cost if you don't do it? Literally, you're going to get fall for the scams. You're going to fall for the rug pulls. You're going to build a shitty ass portfolio. You're going to buy high and sell low, and no one thinks they're going to do it. But I've been here long enough now to see so many people wreck themselves and not get ahead and not retire themselves. And our whole thing is, if you get this right, we've had people retire themselves in a 4-year cycle because they got it right and they got the education. But a lot of those clients came from the 2017 cycle in that they had to go through the pain and get wrecked before they figured it out. And they had an amazing 2020 cycle. But I'm like, that's our job, Steve. Don't let people do that. Pull them in early, educate them, make them get it right. Because, this is an amazing asset class, but it's not a get rich quick. It's not easy. You got to do the work. It's proof of work. That's one of the inventions of Bitcoin. It's proof of work. If you do the work, you get the result. If you don't do the work and you just want someone else to do the work for you, well, if something's free, there's a reason it's free.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's the irony of that. All the work is done now, like that. It's so psychologically fucking hard for people to kind of get that in their head that like the work is done now when the price is down, like 70% and people just they're not emotionally ready for that. They don't have the kind of emotional and educational understanding that you need to actually buy when everything is down and flip your mentality. How important do you think mindset is in terms of entering the crypto Bitcoin space? Because it does go up and down. It's extremely volatile. You can lose your ass if you don't know what you're doing and your portfolio is down 70%, and you hit the sell button, you have realized losses, you've lost money. So how important do you think mindset is in this space?
It's 100% mindset because investing is binary. It's either you buy it or you sell it. It's either you hold it or you dump it. It's so binary. I had an interesting conversation. A friend of mine, Dublin guy, very successful venture capitalist, manages a big book, and we were chatting about this recently, and I was just saying, retail interest just isn't there this year. I don't think we're going to do as well. Bitcoin with Dinny, we serve mostly retail, and we specialize in business owners. I was like, the consultant business might be a bit slower, and he's just like, why is that, Dinny? Like, what can people can't get? And I suppose as a venture capitalist, you have to understand, diamond hands, and because typically they'll hold something for 10 years, they'll hold it for a decade or 7 years before they can exit it. But the sort of conclusions we came to is, one, we like to do what's comfortable. And if everyone's doing it, that's comfortable. At the moment, most people aren't investing. They bought high, they dumped it, they've left crypto now, and they'll be back chasing it, when we break an all-time high again, and whenever that is. So people like to do what's comfortable. But if you want to progress in life, if you want to, do better financially, you got to get out of the comfort zone. The second thing is work. When everyone's doing it, you just assume, well, they've done the work, so I don't need to do the work. I don't need to put all the hours into trying to understand this, So, and I think it's those two things that we don't want to do the work, and we're fearful of being wrong or doing something what other people aren't doing, or people are going to laugh at us. People have been laughing at me all my life, saying I'm an idiot, and it's fantastic because I remember when live video came out about a decade ago. I was doing live video. No one was doing it. I built amazing businesses with zero ad spend and retired myself before I was 40. I didn't mind getting laughed at. I understand what it's like to be early. I understand what it's like to be doing things that no one else is doing. And that's one of my primary indicators that I'm like, well, if the herd is going the other way, I'm interested in having a look at what they're running from. And even basic investing advice is like buy low, sell high. Well, we are lower than we were. So it's more interesting to me as an investor.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me as well, and that's kind of a big part of my philosophy. I mean, I'm obviously massive crypto advocate, and that's my main kind of focus on my socials. Like, but investing and getting educating financially with money as well. It's I'm down the middle there, like, because it's so important, even just for your day to day life, to understand how to save. Like, have a little bit of savings. People don't even realize how much they need to have saved, and it's important to have an emergency fund there, not to mix up your investing and your spending money and your saving money, and to have your buckets. And in terms of financial education outside of crypto and Bitcoin, where should someone start?
I suppose my journey was just I read a lot of books, a lot of trial and error. Before I was an investor, I was a saver. So I always got used to living below my means. Like, that's the secret. If you want to retire early, you need to live below your means. What's drilled into us from an early age is to live above our means. Try and impress the Joneses. Take out leverage, meaning debt. Like, once you take out big leverage, you've got basically a noose around your neck for life, and it's so hard to get out of that. And that's why when I lived in a mobile home, that was out of choice. I could have afforded to rent an apartment, but then I wouldn't have had money to invest into businesses. So I was prepared to live below my means and suffer for a little bit. It's called deferred gratification. It's like when you go to the gym. Nothing really happens. You do a workout, your body doesn't change. It changes maybe, after doing it for a couple of months or whatever, but you don't see any immediate result. It's the same with trying to build financial wealth. You got to defer your gratification. You got to live below your means. You got to not keep up with the Joneses for a period of time. And if you do that and you build a wealth bucket and you build an investment portfolio, well, now the Joneses have to go to work every Monday and you don't. You can just chill out and do whatever you want and have time on your terms. But there's a period of time where you got to go through the pain, you got to go through the struggle. And that's if you want it. And if you don't want it, well, then just do what everyone else does. Take on debt and live for the weekend.
Exactly. It's true. Well said. In terms of like your Bitcoin strategy, like, I know I follow your content, so I'm aware kind of your main goal is retirement. Do you have like two strategies with your Bitcoin crypto portfolio, in terms of you have one retirement fund and then maybe like a short-term fund? Because the amazing thing about crypto is that we do get these insane run-ups where, like, there is, it sounds like such bullshit to people, like when you say genuinely there is opportunities to take 300, 600, 700% returns, they're on the table. But do you have like a short-term strategy as well to take advantage of those situations? I'm guessing you did, because you have a very nice car. We're going to talk about that. But yeah, do you have two strategies, or just the long term?
It's one overall strategy, but built into that, there's different aspects to it. So I obviously have my Bitcoin accumulation strategy. I have an Ethereum accumulation strategy, just for a hedge. And as well as that, I have within my portfolio, we break it down, it's all done in percentages. And then I have altcoin positions, and then they're short term, they're more speculative. They're not that I understand the technology as well as I understand Bitcoin. Who does? If you really break down altcoins, some of them you can't understand them all. There's no time. But they're more speculative plays. And then I have stablecoin strategies, and I've yield strategies using stablecoin and using some collateral. But if anything we learned in 2021, it was that the yield strategies is maybe a little bit too early. And some of that stuff did blow up for me. But luckily, because the way I create my portfolio, I'm only putting small percentages of the at risk. So, and that's how you manage risk, is that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, and understand if you're getting paid yield, there's risk. So, that's, you got to be okay with that going to zero. And we learn, we move on. But yeah, no, for me, yeah, I have my accumulation strategy, and then there's a weighted percentages, and how I manage it. A little tip for people who probably got wrecked in our last cycle. Right now, today, you're dead right in what you said, is the work is done now. So pre 2020 cycle, going into that, I wrote down my exit point prices on various assets. I'll give you one little example. On Chainlink, what were my figures again? Chainlink was about, I think it was $2 or $3, and I put it down to, I was going to sell it at 28. I was like, this thing's probably going to hit 30 in the bull market. I'm going to front run that. $28 is going to be where I'm going to come out of this position. At the time, we were in full bull mode, and it's amazing how your psychology changes. And Chainlink was
Yeah.
ripping. All YouTubers were calling for 200 Chainlink, $300 Chainlink. $100 was just a no-brainer. But anyway, I sold my Chainlink at the $28, and I watched as it went to 30, 40, 50. I think I went to about 52 or 55, and I'm feeling like the idiot. Well, I don't know what Chainlink is at today, but most people who held on rode it all the way up and rode it all the way down. So, and it wasn't that I was an amazing investor. This is the difference. If you invest on psychology, you're getting wrecked. If you invest on strategy, from all the books I've read and courses and people I've trained with, it's the only way to manage markets is to have a strategy and to stick to it. And in hindsight, I was a genius, but during it, I was like, shouldn't have shown me Chainlink bleeding. I'm after missing out. But like, in fairness, I think I've done pretty well. And that's what I sort of do is I decide where I'm getting out before I get in. And I just stick to the strategy then, execute it, and don't be too greedy. But full disclosure, I'm not a professional trader. I don't really trade. I don't condone trading. It's a very small percentage of my portfolio. And I probably get it wrong a lot as well. I probably made some other mistakes where I didn't do as amazing. But that's one thing that I took from the last cycle, and I've done again, that I know whatever I own, where I'm moving out of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I just love that, you know, you're the honesty and like the given that information that it is so emotional when these cryptos do take off, and it's like it's insane to see a portfolio go up like 3,000%, you know, or something like crazy. I mean, even if you go 400%, I mean, where else can you get that? And it, you know, if you look at the November chart back in 21, it in 2 months, I can't remember exactly the figures, but it was so fast that like these movements happen, and you think it's going to go up, and eventually you end up missing the top if you don't go with this strategy, you know. So yeah, and there is that opportunity there. It's like the reality is there is these cycles, short-term cycles, where you can actually come out on top if that is your strategy, and you have a 5-year play, let's say. It is possible to, you know, make a good return.
Yeah, I think, like, for most of my clients, they're running businesses. Some have elderly parents, kids to look after, all this sort of stuff. They don't have time to trade crypto assets. If they try to trade them, they're going to get wrecked. So, you know, I sort of separate. As humans, we have FOMO, fear of missing out. We have to get involved in this thing. There's so much money to be made. So I like to try and say, right, if you're going to do it, split it. Have your pension strategy here. Okay, we know that, we stick to that, and this is like your bookies or your gambling strategy or your FOMO strategy or your I'm going to beat the market strategy. And most times this one just gets wrecked. So it's fortunate that they have this accumulation strategy running on the sidelines. So rather than picking one or the other, I'm a trader, I'm a hodler. It's just like, do both, have exposure to both, because you know, basic investing is you don't want to be all in on one outcome. You know, you want to hedge yourself in case you're wrong, and we're wrong a lot.
And what's your general consensus when people might come up to you, or like you're talking to someone and they're just like, that stuff is crap. Like, you know, it's a load of nonsense, a load of bullshit. Like, it's ridiculous. It's not legal. You know, the banks don't use it. Like, what's your general kind of, like, I'm sure you have this down to a T now, but what's your general? What do you spit back? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, again, it's like, I'd say, who told you that? Did the media tell you that? Well, okay, nothing. You know, a lot of that stuff is tripe. But like, if I go on Twitter and I look at some of the billionaires and multi-millionaires, and there's a lot of sophisticated people in this space, a lot smarter than me, and they all have exposure to it. You know, Bill Miller. Bill Miller is possibly the best living investor. He has a track record that he's the only human who's ever beaten the S&P index for 15 years straight. What exposure to Bitcoin does Bill have? 50% of his net worth's in Bitcoin. This is the best living investor. So I prefer to listen to someone like Bill than my buddy down in the pub over, you know, full respect to my buddies in the pub. But, you know, just, you've got to, don't take weight loss advice off someone who's got a BMI of 35.
Yeah. I just go straight to the Tim Cook, Elon Musk, the two Zuckerberg. I'm pretty sure is Bitcoin too. I mean, they're the three CEOs of the biggest companies on planet Earth, the most innovative companies, who, by the way, are all involved in blockchain on some level, and they are publicly like, yeah, I hold Bitcoin. It's like, Jesus, like, I mean, what more what more can I say to you? Like, it's like at some point, I do feel, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, and you may totally disagree with me on this, but I do feel in some respects, as an average punter, you don't need to know exactly in detail how Bitcoin operates technically. Like, I don't fucking know how this browser is working on my laptop. I know it works. I know how to do stuff on it. But I don't know, like, the back end of actually the programming that's going on. And I do feel that, like, if you can just get the digital gold concept in your head, and even if you just get that, fuck, this is rare. Okay, I can carry it around. Like, all the benefits you mentioned at the start. And if you have that alone and you stick to that and you really understand that, that's all you need. And from there, as you said, it's about working with someone. If you're not comfortable doing it on your own, I definitely would say for the first year to work with somebody, because even in a year it can go up and down a lot. And you do need, even for the emotional support, like going to the gym, it really helps. But it's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, man. A couple of things on that. Like, for the average person, my parents own Bitcoin, and I'll explain to you why they own it and how they own it. My dad doesn't use the internet. He doesn't have a Facebook account. He calls them McGoogles. He says, tell them nothing, they know enough. And he's dead right. Okay, he's old school. But he owns Bitcoin. I explained Bitcoin to him loads of times. We had detailed conversations because he's a very wise man. But he can't get it. How could he? He's no experience on the internet. He's no experience of digitalization or digital value. Okay? But how I sold it to him was, I was like, all right, you've got life savings there. We know inflation is destroying them. What happens if you live another 20 years? Please God. What happens if they live another 30 years? Please God, they do. I better say 50 years in case they're going to go on. But I was like, what I want is, I want 5% of your life savings, and I'm going to take it, and we're buying Bitcoin with it. And how I sold him was, I was like, right, it's 5%. If I lose that 5%, it's not going to break your retirement. Like, it's going to be a kick in the balls, and you're going to be talking to the neighbors going, Jesus, Dinny got me into this feckin' Bitcoin thing. It was like them telecom shares, and they shit the bed. All right. And my strategy was always, well, I'll just give them back to 5% if this doesn't work out. However, fast forward a couple of years, that 5% exposure to Bitcoin has performed three figures in the hundreds of percent. Okay. Meanwhile, the 95% that I didn't touch has gone down. How much has it gone down? I don't know, maybe 30% in purchasing power over that time. So their tiny little bit of risk of Bitcoin is only growing in purchasing power. Meanwhile, their currency, their safe currency, is going down. And I expect them to bypass each other, in a couple of years. So on a risk return basis, it's more risky now to have no Bitcoin. You don't have to go as high as 5%. You can start with 0.5% or 1%. And if you lose 1% of your life savings, it's not going to affect your retirement in any way. However, if Bitcoin continues to monetize, well, your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids might be really appreciative that you put that small little tiny investment into Bitcoin. It's not financial advice. I can't give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I never went to the school.
Well, the funny thing about financial advisors, sorry to cut across there, is I've gone to a few and some very famous ones, and I don't know how to say this bluntly, but like, it was the biggest waste of money I've ever spent. I was so angry, man, after the call. The only thing, like I thought they were going to give me some sort of like maybe strategy or like investment knowledge, or nope. It was like, give me your money. It's going to go into an ETF, and they tried to explain to like what that was. Like, I was a tree or like a numpty, basically. And that was it. That was the entire call. I was like, fuck, you're serious? Like, you're not going to give me like a plan or like try and sort out like an income statement? Nope. That was it. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the main reasons why I kind of got involved in making content, is obviously to raise awareness of like the best performing asset class in the history of asset class bar none. You get 6.9 million% ROI. I mean, there's nothing out there you can say. The charts are there. That argument for me is like our conversation is just go look at the chart. Just go do your homework. Like, I mean, but learning the fundamentals of investing was the main reason why I kind of jumped into this. And to you, I suppose, like what's your kind of long term play, like in terms of, it sounds like you're fairly set up. You have your business. You're retired at an extremely young age, by the sounds of it. Like so what's your plan out for the next few years? Like what's the future look like for Dinny?
My plan, just to finish off on what you mentioned about financial advisors. Yes, like the proof's in the pudding. You don't go to a fat personal trainer. Okay, if some lad pulls up and he's 55 years of age, an old banger car, and he's telling you how to manage your money, in my head, I'm like, you're probably not the guy for me. And I'm not being hard on these guys. It's just that the system is screwed. Okay, that's why there's an alternative system. They're salesmen. They're selling you a product you can never own. Instinctively, we're told, you earn the money and give it away to this man because he knows better than you, and finance is difficult. Finance isn't that difficult, okay? Read Rich Dad Poor Dad and you'll probably know more than most financial advisors know about money. Hidden Secrets of Money is an awesome series by Mike Malone. You'll get it on YouTube. Hidden Secrets of Money. Just search that. Amazing. Okay. So we're taught to give our money away. But what I like to teach people is no one's going to spend your money as carefully as you will. Learn to manage some of your own money. This is the beauty of digital assets, is that we can own them. We don't have to give them away. And I always say, like, if you want to give, like, don't not have a pension. Diversify. Have a pension, but create your own. Because the returns you get in your pension, they're not, most people are like giving out about Bitcoin being down. They have no idea how wrecked their pensions are. They have no idea how destroyed they are. Whereas Bitcoin can turn around and recover in 2 months. Their pension might take 2 decades to recover. And that's the unfortunate irony, that people just don't understand stuff. And getting on to your original question, sorry, I just wanted to get that off my chest. The plan for me is to have the crack, have fun. Life is short. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy my time. I have a couple of businesses. I've businesses in health and fitness, and I've business in consulting. I suppose keep them going, keep creating content, have as much fun as I can. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy, like, how short this journey is. There's so much good stuff to do in life. There's so many hobbies and things I want to learn and things to do. But no, I'm just so fortunate and super happy. I've loads of energy to enjoy, and I'm really fortunate that life's been very kind to me, and I suppose born into a place of privilege, being born here in Dublin, Ireland, where we've amazing opportunities.
Yeah, well said, man. That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like for me as well, getting into this whole space, right? Like, it's one huge aspect for me, right? And I'm curious to see if this must have had a similar effect on you. But you spoke there about kind of taking control of your own finances. So that's something that every single person that I speak to is afraid of doing. Now, when I say every single person, I'm literally telling you, like, every single person. When I tell them, right, where's my hardware wallet? It's here beside me. When I pull out a hardware wallet and say, like, this is where I store my crypto, they're like, you are crazy. I'd never be able to do that. Actually, a lot of people don't have their own confidence in themselves to actually look after their own finances. And one thing I have grown, actually, is financially confident to be actually able to make decisions with my money. As you said, to not go down that road of, paying someone else to do it, like, teach a man to fish sort of stuff. Like, so how's that experience been for you? Like, have you become, it's a massive side benefit for me getting into crypto and understanding Bitcoin is actually learning how to be confident with finances. Have you experienced something similar?
Yeah. Not really, because I suppose the people, people are really either strictly against it, or I'm teaching them what to do and making it a bit easier. But, like, again, it's just bullshit stories we tell ourselves. Like, people have cars that are worth 100 grand. It's like they learn how to store them, they learn how to use them and mind them. Do you know what I mean? It's the exact same with managing a private key of your Bitcoin or digital assets, or whatever you do it. It's like, you don't know it, but there was a time when you didn't know how to fucking drive a car, and you didn't know that you weren't meant to park your car in certain areas or it might get stolen. You'd figure this stuff out. So you just get comfortable. The beauty is, with investing, and this maybe is the point. Sometimes people will go, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to save up all this money, and then I'm going to come into the financial markets as an investor with a big wad of cash. I'm like, that's stupid. It's not what I done. I don't advise it. You're going to get wrecked. One, because you've no experience. You don't know how to invest. You're better off starting to invest now, okay? And start with small amounts, and you're managing small amounts of money. And then as you're making your mistakes with smaller amounts of money. And you learn over time, you learn over experience. And of course, if you pay other people to teach you, you learn by their experiences and their time. So read books, take courses, whatever. So then when you're managing a more considerable portfolio, you have 5 years of experience or you have a decade's experience. And that's sort of how I think about it. In terms of managing the digital assets as well, like we're early days, we're like, I remember when I was trying to open up a photograph in the early 2000s to look at me when I used to do motorbike racing, and it was so difficult. But like, it's so easy now. Like entrepreneurs are going to solve all these problems. Tech entrepreneurs who are doing stuff that I don't understand are going to make it much easier. And all this stuff's going to happen when you click a button, as opposed to fucking writing down words and trying to manage private keys and all this other stuff. Like these problems will be solved. That's what an entrepreneur's job is, and they're all working on it.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Technology does get easier, and it's like if you get in now, it's not like these things won't be fixed in the future. Outside of crypto, let's talk about your car, man. You got a quality car. What are you driving?
It's a BMW i8. I'm into my cars. I'm into cars and motorbikes. Really passionate about motorbikes and fast cars. I've been fortunate enough to have a few nice cars. I've had a couple of 911s, and V8 M3 was one of my favorite cars. And the i8 is actually a fantastic car. Someone was saying you're gonna like sell it and get something else, and I was like, there's nothing else as good as it. Obviously just better cars, but like I'd have to spend a hell of a lot more money to get something a little bit better than it. It's so fun to drive. It's cheap to run. It looks amazing. It's an awesome machine. I really enjoy it.
Was that like kind of a pat on the back, sort of like, well done, I'm going to buy something nice for myself? Like, do you collect other things as well on top of that? Like, do you like watches or anything else, or is it just cars and motorbikes?
No, I don't collect watches. I invest into other assets. I think I've got 5 or 6 motorbikes. I'm into motorbikes, motocross, and pit bikes, trials bikes, and a couple of mountain bikes, a heap of road cycling bikes. Used to do triathlons and all that stuff. So yeah, 2 wheels is my thing. I love 2 wheels. That's all I watch on TV will be, as my wife used to call it, motorbikes going around in circles. But now she's a massive motorcycle racing fan because she was subjected to it through many years. But for me, it's all motorsport, all motorbikes, all cars. That's sort of my main thing. And I'm well into surfing. Like, I love the water. I swim every day in the Irish Sea. I'm down there in my Speedos, like a fucking lunatic. But I love it, man.
I see you. Yeah, I follow you, and I see you down there swimming. Do you swim literally every day? That's mad. Like, do you? What is it about sea swimming that you like so much? Is it just the buzz of doing it, or do you actually go and swim lengths, or what's the buzz of it?
It's just awesome. I just love the sea, man. I love the sea. I love surfing. I love being in the sea. I like free diving. I love being in the water. The sea swimming. I know it's cliche now. It's like you have all the comedians making fun of us, but my claim to fame is I was doing it before it was cool. But no, man, you just feel so good after it. It's like, it's hard to explain. Like, it's pain, but like you have to experience pain to experience pleasure better when you get pain. And it's almost not even pain anymore. Like, even there today, it was raining and windy and rotten, and people are on the beach, like, wrapped up, and they're looking at you, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? And you're out there like, yeah, buddy, it's amazing. Like, your body's just an amazing machine, man. It's like, how it's able to do that, I don't know.
Yeah. And how often do you train? Like, how often are you in the gym?
I train like most days, man. I do something, whether I'm riding a motocross bike or surfing or swimming or going to the gym. I try and go to the gym. I'll probably go 4 times a week anyway, depending. Like, some weeks I've got a lot of meetings or I'm busy and I might, only get there once or twice. But I'm in a fortunate position that it's not a chore. It's like the best part of my day. And that's what I try and teach people. Fitness can become like that. Most people do it in I hate my body, I'm going to kill it with exercise so I can not be fat. But if you can just like learn to love your body, love the joy of movement, because you always feel amazing after a workout, and build up your fitness over time. Most people kill themselves and they're training at a level they're not able for. I've never killed myself. I just keep learning. And like compound interest, how you get financially free, you can compound your fitness by just being consistent and enjoying it. And then, and magic happens over time, and exercises you're doing that people think are show off or just your warm up, and you're like, I'm not showing off. I'm just playing here and having a bit of fun. Don't be jealous. Don't be hating on me.
I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I went for my first 5K of 2023. Legs are in bits, but yeah, it's good, man. You just get that buzz, and it's, you know what's funny actually. Like when I go running or do fitness, specifically running though, I solve a lot of problems. Even financial problems. I get clarity. I get clarity. Like it's the only place I feel like I can kind of get really clear on even work problems as well. Like I work 9 to 5 for a tech company, you know, so it's like yeah, like it's I think it's so underrated. Like people, you know, January and all that kind of stuff. You're listening to this, get out, go to the gym. So what's the do you have any plans for the year? Do you set goals at the start of the year or any of that crack, or are you just kind of like take it as it comes? Scale the business?
I'll give you my strengths. I'll give you my weaknesses. My strengths are I'm a doer. I'm all action, and I've unlimited energy. My weaknesses are organization. I'm not the most organized person in the world, but I've learned to accept that. I try as I do. I have a couple of business ventures that I'm putting a little bit of attention onto. I also have the consulting business. Last year I was fortunate enough. I went away surfing for 2 months. The plan will be to do that again. I have a camper van, so I'm going to feck off to northern Spain when the surf gets good, maybe in the spring and definitely in the autumn. Maybe I'll do the 2 trips or maybe just one. I'm not sure if my wife will let me go for 2. But yeah, no, just a couple of holidays, bits and pieces. But yeah, no, just keep having fun, have the crack, love meeting people, networking. I'm sort of like you. I can see that you're passionate about what you do, and when you're passionate about it, you know, you do it with good energy and you enjoy it. And it's just fun, man. It's awesome to work on something that you're into. You know, I'm into fitness, so I like talking about it. If I'm at a party, I'm talking about training, fitness, and I'm mad into Bitcoin and crypto. So if I'm at a party, I'm talking about them things too. So you know, when you're working at them, it's like, well, I would do it for free, but you got to pay me.
I love it. What's I have to ask you this just for the crack, but like, what's your predicted price of Bitcoin on the next run up? Maybe if it's 2024, 25, if we get a run up.
Yeah, that's the question. The unknown question is if we get a run. I always have sort of 2 theses rather than just one. One is, you know, because if you expect the best but prepare for the worst, that's what I always like to do. Because I've been in the worst situations, I've had broken back, I've lived in a caravan, I never want to go back there. So I always make sure that I'm in a position where I'm not taking steps back down. So one of my theses is that we don't break an all-time high in the next run because we're in this quantitative tightening system. And that doesn't mean Bitcoin's broken at all. It just means it's more like an Amazon play where you held Amazon for a decade, you've done really, really well. And that's one of the things that, like, it took me a decade of really hard work, you know, working Saturdays, Sundays, getting up early, slogging it, not buying stuff to get myself where I am now. So I understand the deferred gratification. And I think Bitcoin, you know, in one play, it's like that. It's like this thing gets wrecked for a little bit longer. People aren't as smart or they don't have as much time to figure this thing out. I see it as an inevitability. But of course, I'm hedged on that. 100% of my network certainly isn't in Bitcoin. You don't need to. The second play is that we do have a regular cycle and we do break it. And, you know, I don't know, pull a figure out. Maybe we hit 150K, maybe we hit 200K. But if we do have a run, I definitely expect us to hit the 6 figures.
And it's interesting to know that you do actually, I wanted to ask you at the very start of the podcast, but you do actually hold other crypto as well, right? Like I thought you were actually just Bitcoin going off your kind of content, but you do actually hold other cryptos. You never make any content on them as far as I see anyway. So, but you do hold other ones. What do you,
yeah,
can you talk about what ones
I
you hold?
I don't make any content on it because just from my experience, people get wrecked on other cryptos and they wish they bought Bitcoin. Like, here's how I explain it to people. Go back any of the years. Okay, if you traded the other assets, you could have done well, much better than Bitcoin, but 90% of traders lose. So you're going into a game that's got a 90% failure rate. However, if you just held Bitcoin over a 4-year cycle, generally you've done well. So if you're someone who's got a career or a job and you're not like us, having all the time to devote to the markets and the charts and all the information, you just want to create a little plan B pension, well, maybe just accumulating the safest asset. The other thing I say is, in 10 years' time, well, if Bitcoin goes to zero, everything in crypto goes to zero, because we know Bitcoin goes up, everything goes up. Bitcoin goes down, everything goes down. Bitcoin goes up a lot, everything goes up a lot more. Bitcoin goes down, everything goes down more. Okay, but if whatever you're holding other than Bitcoin goes to zero, it doesn't affect Bitcoin whatsoever. We've had thousands of assets go to zero. Okay, but if Bitcoin goes to zero, guess what happens to everything else? So not having a decent Bitcoin position, I just think, is not understanding the markets. So for me, I hold other ones. They're speculative bets. Think of them like venture capital. I just own loads of little tiny positions. We're talking 0.5%, 0.3%. And rather than naming fucking names, I don't even know. But most of the top ones, I have little positions in them. The Polkadots, the Cardanos, the Litecoins, the Solanas, and that's heavily wrecked now. And a few others. Part of my strategy also was stable coins, because you could get the yield on them, USDC and Tether, and, you could get your compound interest on them. So when I put my portfolio together, it's all done on percentages. And, and it's not that you shouldn't own altcoins. It's like, just with investing, it's like less Bitcoin, more altcoins means more risk. It also means more potential reward if you're able to time it right. Okay. But Bitcoin is the safest, most secure asset that you can own in the crypto space. That's why I try and, I'm like, if I can educate people on Bitcoin and really get that down, and aside, I can give them a lot of value, okay, rather than just leaving them confused. Because Bitcoin alone, like, I've done tens of thousands of hours, I'd say, at this stage, of learning about Bitcoin, because it's so big and broad. And that's why I specialize in it. And the last little thing is, like, the money system's broken. Not so much for us in the Euros, we're privileged, but like in other parts of the world, Bitcoin is needed. Bitcoin is saving lives. Bitcoin can fix world poverty. The money system's broke. That's why our food is shit, our education is shit. Not shit. I shouldn't be too hard on it. It's suboptimal. Okay, we'll say it's suboptimal. All right, but like, walk through the supermarket, look at all the stuff in boxes. It's like the quality is going down and the price is going up. Why is that? Because the underlying, the money is losing its value. So companies, entrepreneurs have to cut quality to survive in this economic situation. So if we can fix the money, I think we can fix a lot of what's wrong in our world. So I'm very passionate about that aspect of Bitcoin, that it is our chance at getting back to a sound money. And we've only been on unsound money since the 70s. So it's not like we've been on unsound money for like forever. It's been a really short period of time in the length of time humans have used monies. We generally use monies that were sounder than a money backed by nothing. Only a politician's word, which, we know how that works out.
Yeah, for sure. Man, it's been a great chat. I really appreciate you jumping on with me.
Yeah, it's been awesome, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Come here, where can people find you if they want to work with you or learn more, or if they're thinking of investing and they want to reach out? Where can we find Dinny?
Rush North Beach on the high tide every day. I'm on all the socials, Bitcoin with Dinny, Instagram, Facebook, and if you're looking for me, the website is just bitcoinwithdinny.com, or you'll get me on any of them.
Class. Well, listen, look, I love following your Instagram page. Give Dinny a follow. I love watching the sea swims and the energy. You make me feel like I want to go to the gym anyway when I watch it. So it's a great place to be. It's a great place to be. And listen, man, thanks so much for coming on. And yeah, we must do it again sometime. Let's chat soon and see how you're getting on.
Yeah, 100%, man. I'll have to get you on my podcast now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, return the favor. Why not?
Thanks,
man. Thanks so much.
Cheers.